Looking first at her face, then at the broken lute, he wondered whether she actually possessed the element of violence seemingly displayed in her handling of the weapon. The smarting pain from the screech of the cat lingered. As you can see, she said, the inside of the lute is almost completely hollow. All the variations come from this single crosspiece near the middle. This one piece of wood is the instrument's bones, its vital organs, its heart. If it were absolutely straight and rigid, the sound would be monotonous, but in fact, it has been shaved into a curved shape. This alone would not create the lute's infinite variety. That comes from leaving the crosspiece a certain amount of leeway to vibrate at either end. To put it another way, the tonal richness comes from certain relaxation, comes from there being a certain freedom of movement, a certain relaxation at the ends of the core. It's the same with people. In life, we must have flexibility. Our spirits must be able to move freely. To be too stiff and rigid is to be brittle and lacking in responsiveness. His eyes did not move from the lute, nor did his lips open. This much, she continued, should be obvious to anybody. But isn't it characteristic of people to become rigid? With one stroke of the pick, I can make the four strings of the lute sound like a lance, like a sword, like the rending of a cloud, because of the fine balance between firmness and flexibility in the wooden core. Tonight, when I first saw you, I could detect no trace of flexibility, only stiff and yielding rigidity. If the crossbeat were as taut and unbending as you are, one stroke of the pick would break a string, perhaps even the sounding board itself. It may have been presumptuous of me to say what I did, but I was worried about you. I wasn't joking or making fun of you. Do you understand that? A cock crowed in the distance. Sunlight reflected by the snow came through the slits in the rain shutters. Musashi sat and stared at the mine body of the lute and the chips of wood on the floor. The crow of the cock escaped him. He did not notice the sunlight. Oh, said Yoshino, it's daylight. She seemed sorry that the night had passed. She reached out her hand for more firewood before realizing there was none. The sounds of morning, doors rattling open, the twitter of birds infiltrated the room, but Yoshino made no move to open the rain shutters. Though the fire was cold, the blood coursed warmly in her veins. The young girls who waited on her knew better than to open the door to her little house until they were summoned. A sickness of the heart. Within 2 days, the snow had melted, and warm spring breezes were encouraging a myriad of fresh buds to swell to their fullest. The sun was strong, and even cotton garments were uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. A young Zen monk, mud spattered up the back of his kimono as high as the waist, stood before the entrance of Lord Karasumaru's residence. Getting no answer to his repeated calls for admission, he walked around to the servants' quarters and stood on tiptoe to peek through a window. What is it, priest? Asked Jotaro. The monk whirled around and his mouth fell open. He couldn't imagine what such a ragged muffin could be doing in the courtyard of Karasumaru Mitsuhiro's house. If you are begging, you will have to go around to the kitchen, said Jotaro. I'm not here for alms, replied the monk. He took a letter box from his kimono. I'm from the Nansoji in Izumi province. This letter is for Takuan Soho, and I understand he's staying here. Are you one of the delivery boys? Of course not. I'm a guest like Takuan. Is that so? In that case, would you please tell Takuan I'm here? Wait here, I'll call him. As he jumped into the entrance hall, Jotaro tripped over the foot of a standing screen and the tangerines cradled in his kimono tumbled to the floor. Retrieving them rapidly, he sped off toward the inner rooms. He came back a few minutes later to inform the monk that Takuan was out. They say he's over at the Daitokuji. Do you know when he will be back? They said pretty soon. Is there some place I could wait without inconveniencing anyone? Jotaro bounded into the courtyard and led the monk straight to the barn. You can wait here, he said. You won't be in anybody's way. The barn was littered with straw, cartwheels, cow manure, and a variety of other things, but before the priest could say anything, Jotaro was running across the garden toward a small house at the west end of the compound. Otsu, he cried, I've brought you some tangerines. Lord Karasumaru's doctor had told Otsu there was nothing to worry about. She believed him, though she herself could tell how thin she was just by putting her hand to her face. Her fever persisted and her appetite had not returned, but this morning she had murmured to Jotaro that she would like a tangerine. Leaving his post at her bedside, he went first to the kitchen, only to learn there were no tangerines in the house. Finding none at the greengrocer's or other food shops, he went to the open marketplace in Kyogoku. A wide variety of goods was available there: silk thread, cotton goods, lamp oil, flowers, and so on, but no tangerines. After he left the market, his hopes were raised a couple of times by the sight of orange-colored fruit beyond the walls of private gardens, bitter oranges and quinces, as it turned out. Having covered nearly half of the city, he met with success only by turning thief. The offering in front of the Shinto shrine consisted of small piles of potatoes, carrots, and tangerines. He stuffed the fruit into his kimono and glanced around to make sure no one was watching. Fearful that the outraged god would materialize at any minute, he prayed all the way back to the Karasumaru house. Please don't punish me. I'm not going to eat them myself. He lined the tangerines up in a row, offered Otsu one, and peeled it for her. She turned away, refusing to touch it. What's the matter? When he leaned forward to look at her face, she buried her head deeper in the pillow. Nothing's the matter, she sobbed. You've started crying again, haven't you? Said Jotaro, clicking his tongue. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, just eat one of these later. Well, eat the one I have peeled at least, please. Joe, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, but I can't eat anything just now. It's because you're crying so much. Why are you so sad? I'm crying because I'm happy that you are so good to me. I don't like to see you like this. It makes me want to cry too. I'll stop, I promise. Now, will you forgive me? Only if you eat the tangerine. If you don't eat something, you will die. Later, you'll eat this one. Oh, I can't, he swallowed hard, imagining the ruffled eyes of the god. Oh, all right, we'll each have one. She turned over and began removing the stringy white fibers from the pulp with her delicate fingers. Where's Takuan? She asked absently. They told me he's at the Daitokuji. Is it true he saw Musashi the night before last? You heard about that? Yes, I wonder if he told Musashi I'm here. I suppose so. Takuan said he would invite Musashi to come here one of these days. Did he say anything to you about that? No. I wonder if he's forgotten. Shall I ask him? Please do, she replied, smiling for the first time. But don't ask him in front of me. Why not? Takuan's awful. He keeps saying I'm suffering from Musashi's sickness. If Musashi came, you'd be up and about in no time, wouldn't you? Even you have to say things like that. But she seemed genuinely happy. Is Jotaro there? call one of Mitsuhiro's samurai. Here I am. Takuan wants to see you. Come with me. Go and see what he wants, urged Otsu. And don't forget what we were talking about. Ask him, won't you? A tinge of pink crept into her pale cheeks as she pulled the cover halfway up over her face. Takuan was in the sitting room talking with Lord Mitsuhiro. Jotaro flung open the sliding door and said, "Did you want me?" "Yes, come in here." Mitsuhiro watched the boy with an indulgent smile, ignoring his lack of manners. As Jotaro sat down, he said to Takuan, "A priest just like you came here a while ago. He said he was from the Nansoji. Shall I go get him?" "Never mind, I know about that already." He was complaining about what a wicked little boy you are. "Me? Do you think it's proper to put a guest in the barn and leave him there? He said he wanted to wait someplace where he wouldn't be in anyone's way." Mitsuhiro laughed until his knees shook. Recovering his composure almost immediately, he asked Takuan, "Are you going directly to Tajima without returning to Izumi?" The priest nodded. "The latter was rather disturbing, so I think I should. I don't have to make any preparations. I'll leave today." "You are going away?" asked Jotaro. "Yes, I must return home as quickly as possible." "Why?" "I've just heard that my mother's condition is very serious." "You have a mother?" The boy couldn't believe his ears. "Of course. When are you coming back?" That depends on my mother's health." What am I going to do without you here?" grumbled Jotaro. "Does that mean we won't see you anymore?" "Of course not. We will meet again soon. I have arranged for you two to stay on here, and I'm counting on you to look after Otsu, trying to make her stop brooding and get well. What she needs more than medicine is greater fortitude." "I'm not strong enough to give her that. She won't get well until she sees Musashi. She's a difficult patient, I'll grant you. I don't envy you a traveling companion like her." "Takuan, where was it you met Musashi?" Well, Takuan looked at Lord Mitsuhiro and laughed sheepishly. "Once he came in here, you said you bring him, and that's the only thing Otsu has thought about since." "Musashi," Mitsuhiro said casually. "Isn't he the Ronin who was with us at the Ogier?" Takuan said to Jotaro, "I haven't forgotten what I told Otsu. On my way back from the Daitokuji, I stopped in at Koetsu's house to see if Musashi was there. Koetsu hasn't seen him and thinks he must still be at the Ogier. He said his mother was so worried she wrote a letter to Yoshino Dayu asking her to send Musashi home right away." "Oh!" exclaimed Lord Mitsuhiro, raising his eyebrows half in surprise and half in envy. "So he's still with Yoshino?" It would appear that Musashi's only a man like any other. Even if they seem to be different when they are young, they always turn out to be the same. "Yoshino's a strange woman. What does she see in that uncouth swordsman? I don't pretend to understand her, nor do I understand Otsu. What it comes down to is I don't understand women in general. As far as I'm concerned, they all seem a little sick. As for Musashi, I suppose it's about time he reached the springtime of life. His real training starts now, and let's hope that he gets it through his head that women are more dangerous than swords. Still, other people can't solve his problems for him, and I see nothing for me to do but leave him alone." A little uncomfortable about having said so much in front of Jotaro, he hastened to offer his thanks and bid farewell to his host, requesting him a second time to allow Otsu and Jotaro to stay a little longer. The old saying that journeys should be commenced in the morning meant nothing to Takuan. He was ready to depart, and depart he did, though the sun was well into the west and twilight already descending. Jotaro ran along beside him, pulling at his sleeve. "Please, please come back and say a word to Otsu. She's been crying again, and I can't do anything to cheer her up. Did you two talk about Musashi? She told me to ask you when he's coming. If he doesn't come, I'm afraid she might die. You don't have to worry about her dying, just leave her alone. Takuan, who's Yoshino Dayu? Why do you want to know that? You said Musashi was with her, didn't you? Hmm. I have no intention of going back and trying to heal Otsu's illness, but I want you to tell her something for me. Something for me. What is it? Tell her to eat properly. I've told her that 100 times. You have? Well, that's the best thing she could possibly be told. But if she won't listen, you may as well give her the whole truth. What's that? Musashi is infatuated with a courtesan named Yoshino, and he hasn't left the brothel for 2 nights and 2 days. She's a fool to go on loving a man like that. That's not true, protested Shotaro. He's my sensei. He's a samurai. He's not like that. If I told Otsu that, she might commit suicide. You are the one who's a fool, Takuan, a great big old fool. Ha ha ha. You have no business saying bad things about Musashi or saying Otsu is foolish. You are a good boy, Jotaro, said the priest, patting him on the head. Jotaro dug from under his hand. I've had enough of you, Takuan. I'll never ask for your help again. I'll find Musashi myself. I'll bring him back to Otsu. Do you know where the place is? No, but I'll find it. Be sassy if you like, but it's not going to be easy for you to find Yoshino's place. Shall I tell you how? Don't bother. Shotaro, I'm no enemy of Otsu, nor do I have anything against Musashi. Far from it. I've been praying for years that both of them would be able to make good lives for themselves. Then why are you always saying such mean things? Does it seem that way to you? Maybe you are right, but just at the moment, both of them are sick people. If Musashi is left alone, his illness will go away, but Otsu needs help. Being a priest, I've tried to help her. We are supposed to be able to cure sickness of the heart just as doctors cure illnesses of the body. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do anything for her, so I'm giving up. If she can't realize that her love is one-sided, advising her to eat properly is the best I can do. Don't worry about it. Otsu's not going to ask a big phony like you for help. If you don't believe me, go to the Ogier in the Yanagimachi and see for yourself what Musashi is up to. Then go back and tell Otsu what you saw. She will be heartbroken for a while, but it just might open her eyes. Jotaro put his fingers in his ears. Shut up, you acorn-headed old fraud. You are the one who came chasing after me, or have you forgotten? As Takuan walked off and left him, Jotaro stood in the middle of the street, repeating a very disrespectful chant with which street urchins were wont to taunt beggar priests. But the moment Takuan was out of sight, he choked up, burst into tears, and wept hopelessly. When he finally pulled himself together, he wiped his eyes and, like a lost puppy, suddenly remembering the way home, began his search for the Ogiya. The first person he saw was a woman. Hat covered by a veil, she appeared to be an ordinary housewife. Jotaro ran up to her and asked, How do you get to Yanagimachi? That's the license quarter, isn't it? What's a license quarter? Goodness. Well, tell me, what do they do there? Why, you, she glared at him indignantly for a moment before hastening on. Undaunted, Jotaro went steadfastly on his way, asking one person after another where the Ogiya was. The scent of Aloeswood. The lights in the windows of the houses of pleasure burned brightly, but it was still too early for many customers to be prowling the three main alleys of the district. At the Ogier, one of the younger servants happened to glance toward the entrance. There was something strange about the eyes peeping through a slit in the curtain, below which a pair of feet in dirty straw sandals and the tip of a wooden sword were visible. The young man gave a little jump of surprise, but before he could open his mouth, Jotaro had entered and stated his business. Miyamoto Musashi is in this house, isn't he? He's my teacher. Will you please tell him Jotaro is here? You might ask him to come out. The servant's look of surprise was replaced by a stern frown. Who are you, you little beggar? He growled. There's nobody here by that name. What do you mean, sticking your dirty face in here just as business is about to begin? Out! Clutching Jotaro's collar, he gave him a hard shove. Angry as a puffed up blowfish, Jotaro screamed, Stop it! I came here to see my teacher. I don't care why you are here, you little pack rat. This Musashi has already caused a lot of trouble. He's not here. If he's not here, how can't you just say so? Take your hands off me. You look sneaky. How do I know you are not a spy from the Yoshioka school? That has got nothing to do with me. When did Musashi leave? Where did he go? First, you order me around, now you ask for information. You should learn to keep a civil tongue in your head. How should I know where he is? If you don't know, alright, but let go of my collar. I'll let go, alright, like this. He pinched Jotaro's ear hard, swung him around, and pitched him toward the gateway. Ouch! Screamed Jotaro. Crouching, he drew his wooden sword and struck the servant in the mouth, breaking his front teeth. Ow! The young man put one hand to his bloody mouth, and with the other he knocked Jotaro down. Help! Murder! Yelled Jotaro. He mastered his strength as he had when he killed the dog at Koyagyu and brought his sword down on the servant's skull. Blood spurted from the young man's nose, and with a sound no louder than an earthworm's sigh, he collapsed under a willow tree. A prostitute on display behind a grill window on the opposite side of the street raised her head and shouted to the next window over, Look, can you see? That boy with the wooden sword just killed a man from the Ogiya. He's getting away. In no time, the street was filled with people running hither and thither, and the air echoed with bloodthirsty shouts. Which way did he go? What did he look like? As suddenly as it had started, the hubbub died down, and by the time merrymakers began arriving, the incident had ceased to be a topic of conversation. Fights were common occurrences, and the denizens of the quarter settle or cover up the bloodier ones in short order so as to avoid investigations by the police. While the main alleys were lit up like daylight, there were byways and vacant lots where all was completely dark. Jotaro found a hiding place, then changed it for another. Innocently enough, he thought he would be able to get away, but in fact, the whole quarter was surrounded by a 10-foot wall made of charred logs sharpened to a point at the top. Having come up against this, he felt his way along it, but could not find even a large crack, let alone a gate. As he turned back to avoid one of the alleys, he caught sight of a young girl. As their eyes met, she called softly and beckoned with a delicate white hand. Are you calling me? He asked guardedly. He saw no evil intent in her thickly powdered face, so he went a little nearer. What is it? Aren't you the boy who came to the Ogier and asked for Miyamoto Musashi? She asked gently. Yes, your name's Jotaro, isn't it? Uh-huh. Come with me. I'll take you to Musashi. Where is he? Jotaro asked, growing suspicious again. The girl stopped and explained that Yoshino Dayu, seriously concerned about the incident with the servant, had sent her to look for Jotaro and take him to Musashi's place of hiding. With a look of gratitude, he asked, Are you Yoshino Dayu's servant? Yes, and you can relax now. If she stands up for you, no one in the quarter can touch you. Is my teacher really there? If he wasn't, why would I be showing you the way? What's he doing in a place like this? If you open the door of that little farmhouse right over there, you can see for yourself. Now I have to go back to my work. She disappeared quietly beyond the shrubbery in the neighboring garden. The farmhouse seemed too modest to be the end of his search, but he could not leave without making sure. To reach a side window, he rolled a rock from the garden over to the wall, perched on it, and pressed his nose against the bamboo grill. He is there, he said, keeping his voice down and concealing his presence with some difficulty. He yearned to reach out and touch his master. It happened so long. Musashi was asleep by the hearth, his head resting on his arm. His attire was like nothing Jotaro had ever seen him in before, a silk kimono with large figure designs, of the sort favored by the stylish young men about town. Spread out on the floor was a red woolen cloth. On it lay a painter's brush, an ink box, and several pieces of paper. On one sheet, Musashi had practiced sketching an eggplant. On another, the head of a chicken. Jotaro was shaken. How can he waste his time drawing pictures? He thought angrily. Doesn't he know Otsu is sick? A heavy embroidered cloak half covered Musashi's shoulder. It was unquestionably a woman's garment, and the gaudy kimono disgusting. Jotaro sensed an aura of voluptuousness in which there lurked evil. As had happened on New Year's Day, a wave of bitter indignation at the corrupt ways of adults swept over him. There's something wrong with him, he thought. He's not himself. As vexation slowly turned to mischievousness, he decided he knew what to do. I'll give him a good scare, he thought. Very quietly, he started to lower himself from the rock. Shotaro, Musashi called, who brought you here? The boy caught himself and looked through the window again. Musashi was still lying down, but his eyes were half open and he was grinning. Jotaro sped through to the front of the house, ran in through the front door, and threw his arms around Musashi's shoulders. Sensei, he babbled happily. So you've come, have you? Lying on his back, Musashi stretched out his arms and hugged the boy's dirty head to his chest. How did you know I was here? Did Takuan tell you? It's been a long time, hasn't it? Without loosening his embrace, Musashi sat up. Jotaro, nestled against the warm chest he had almost forgotten, wiggled his head like a pecking geese. Jotaro moved his head to Musashi's knee and lay still. Otsu's sick in bed. You can't imagine how badly she wants to see you. She keeps saying she would be alright if only you would come. Just once, that's all she wants. Poor Otsu. She saw you on the bridge on New Year's Day, talking with that crazy girl. Otsu got angry and shut herself up in her shell like a snail. I tried to drag her to the bridge, but she wouldn't come. I don't blame her. I was upset with Akemi that day too. You have to go see her. She's at Lord Karasumaru's house. Just go in and say, "Look, Otsu, I'm here." If you do that, she will get well right away. Jotaro, eager to get his point across, said much more. But this was the substance of it. Musashi grunted occasionally, once or twice, saying, "Is that so?" But for reasons the boy could not fathom, he did not come out and say in so many words that he would do what he was asked, despite the boy's begging and pleading. Jotaro, for all his devotion to his teacher, began to feel a dislike for him, an itch to have a real fight with his teacher. His belligerence boiled higher, to the point where it was held in check only by his respect. He lapsed into silence, his disapproval written large on his face, his eyes sullen and his lips twisted as though he had just drank a cup of vinegar. Musashi took up his drawing manual and brush and began adding strokes to one of his sketches. Jotaro, glaring distastefully at the eggplant drawing, thought, What makes him think he can paint pictures? He's awful. Presently, Musashi lost interest and began washing out his brush. Jotaro was about to make one more appeal when they heard wooden sandals on the stepping stones outside. Your wash is dry, said a girlish voice. The attendant, who had been Jotaro's guide, entered with a kimono and a cloak, both neatly folded. Placing them in front of Musashi, she invited him to inspect them. Thank you, he said. They look as good as new. Blood stains don't come out easily. You have to scrub and scrub. They seem to be gone now. Thank you. Where's Yoshino? Oh, she's terribly busy, going from one guest to another. They don't give her a moment's rest. It's been very pleasant here, but if I stay longer, I'll be a burden on people. I plan to slip away as soon as the sun comes up. Would you tell Yoshino that and convey my deepest thanks to her? Jotaro relaxed. Musashi must certainly be planning to see Otsu. This was the way his master should be, a good upright man. He broke into a happy smile. As soon as the girl left, Musashi laid the clothes before Jotaro and said, You came at just the right time. They must be returned to the woman who lent them to me. I want you to take them to the house of Honami Koatsu. It's in the north part of the city, and bring back my own kimono. Will you be a good boy and do this for me? Certainly, said Jotaro with a look of approval. I'll go now. He wrapped the garments in a piece of cloth, along with a letter from Musashi to Koatsu, and swung the parcel onto his back. The attendant arrived just then with dinner and threw at her hands in horror. What are you doing? She gasped. When Musashi explained, she cried, Oh, you can't let him go, and told him what Jotaro had done. Fortunately, Jotaro's aim had not been perfect, so the servant had survived. She assured Musashi that since this was only one fight among many, the matter had ended there. Yoshino having personally warned the owner and the younger people in the establishment to keep quiet. She also pointed out that by proclaiming himself to be Miyamoto Musashi's student, Jotaro had lent credence to the rumor that Musashi was still at the Ogiya. I see, said Musashi simply. He looked inquisitively at Jotaro, who scratched his head, retreated to a corner, and made himself as small as possible. The girl went on, I don't need to tell you what will happen if you try to leave. There are still a lot of Yoshioka men around waiting for you to show your face. It's very difficult for Yoshino and the proprietor because Koatsu begged us to take good care of you. The Ogier can't possibly let you walk straight into their clutches. Yoshino's resolved to protect you. Those samurai are so persistent. They've kept constant watch and sent men around several times, accusing us of hiding you. We've gotten rid of them, but they are still not convinced. I don't understand it, really. They act as if they were on a major campaign. Beyond the gate to the quarter, there are 3 or 4 ranks of them and lookouts everywhere, and they are armed to the teeth. Yoshino thinks you should stay here another 4 or 5 days, or at least until they tire of waiting. Musashi thanked her for her kindness and concern, but added cryptically, I'm not without a plan of my own. He readily agreed to have a servant sent to Koatsu House in Jotaro's stead. The servant returned in less than an hour with a note from Koatsu. When we have another chance, let us meet again. Life, though it may seem long, is in truth all too short. I beg you to take the best possible care of yourself. My regards from afar. Though few in number, the words seem warm and very much in character. Your clothing is in this package, said the servant. Koatsu's mother asked me particularly to convey her best wishes. He bowed and left. Musashi looked at the cotton kimono, old, ragged, so often exposed to dew and rain, spotted with sweat stains. It would feel better on his skin than the fine silks lent him by the ogier. Surely this was the outfit for a man engaged in the serious study of swordsmanship. Musashi neither needed nor wanted anything better. He expected it to be smelly after being folded up for a few days, but as he slipped his arms into the sleeves, he found it to be quite fresh. It had been washed, the creases stood out neatly. Thinking Myoshu had washed it herself, he wished he too had a mother and thought of the long, solitary life ahead of him, with no relatives except his sister living in mountains to which he himself could not return. He looked down at the fire for a long time. He looked down at the fire for a time. Let's go, he said. He tightened his obi and slid his beloved sword between it and his ribs. As he did so, the loneliness fell away as quickly as it had came. This sword, he reflected, would have to be his mother, his father, his brothers and sisters. That was what he had vowed to himself years earlier, and that was the way it would have to be. Jotaro was already outside, gazing up at the stars, thinking that no matter how late they arrived at Lord Karasumaru's house, Otsu would be awake. My, won't she be surprised, he said to himself. She will be so happy she will probably start crying again. Jotaro, said Musashi, did you come in through the wooden gate in back? I don't know if it's in back, it's that one over there. Go there and wait for me. Aren't we going together? Yes, but first I want to say goodbye to Yoshino. I won't be long. All right, I'll be by the gate. He felt a twinge of anxiety at having Musashi leave him even for a few moments, but on this particular night he would have done anything his teacher asked him to do. The ogier had been a heaven, pleasant but only temporary. Musashi reflected that being shut off from the outside world had done him good, for until now his body and mind had been like ice, a thick, frigid mass insensitive to the beauty of the moon, heedless of the flowers, and responsive to the sun. He had no doubts about the rectitude of the ascetic life he led, but now he could see how his self-denial might make him narrow, small-minded, and stubborn. Takuan had told him years ago that his strength was no different from that of a wild beast. Niken had warned him about being too strong. After his fight with Denshichiro, body and soul had been too tense and strained. These past 2 days he had let himself go and allowed his spirit to expand. He had drank a little, dozed when he felt like it, read, dabbled at painting, yawned and stretched at will. Taking a rest had been of immense value, and he had decided that it was important, and would continue to be important, for him occasionally to have 2 or 3 days of completely carefree leisure. Standing in the garden, watching the lights and shadows in the front parlors, he thought, I must say just one word of thanks to Yoshino Daji for all she has done. But he changed his mind. He could easily hear the clinking of shamisen and the raucous singing of the buyers. He saw no way to sneak in to see her. Better to thank her in his heart and hope she would understand. Having bowed toward the front of the house, he made his departure. Outside, he beckoned to Jotaro. As the boy ran to him, they heard Rainier coming with a note from Yoshino. She pressed it into Musashi's hand and left. The note paper was small and bright, beautifully colored. As he unfolded it, the scent of Aloeswood came to his nostrils. The message said, more memorable than the luckless flowers that wither and disintegrate night after night is a glimpse of moonlight through the trees. Though they laugh as I weep into another's cup, I send you this one word of remembrance. Who's the note from? Asked Jotaro. Nobody in particular. A woman? Does it make any difference? What does it say? You don't need to know that. Musashi folded up the paper. Jotaro leaned toward it and said, "It smells good. It's aloeswood." The gate. Jotaro thought the next move would be to get out of the quarter without being detected. "Going this way would take us to the main gate," he said. "That would be dangerous." There must be another way out. Aren't all the entrances except the main one closed at night? We could climb the wall. That would be cowardly. I do have a sense of honor, as well as a reputation to maintain. I'll walk straight out the main entrance when the time is right. You will, though uneasy. The boy didn't argue, for he was well aware that according to the rules of the military class, a man without pride was worthless. "Of course," replied Musashi, "but not you. You are still a child. You can go out some safer way." "Safer way? How? Over the wall? By myself? By yourself? I can't do that." "Why not? I'll be called a coward." "Don't be foolish. They are after me, not you." "But where will we meet?" "The Yanagi riding grounds." "You are sure you will come?" "Absolutely." "Promise you won't run off again?" "I won't run away. One of the things I don't intend to teach you is lying. I said I'll meet you, and I will. Now, while nobody's around, let's get you over the wall." Jotaro looked up cautiously. I ran for the wall, where he stopped dead, looking wistfully upward. It was more than double his height. Musashi joined him, carrying a sack of charcoal. He dropped the sack and peered through a crack in the wall. "Can you see anyone out there?" Jotaro asked. "No, nothing but rushes. There may be water underneath, so you have to be careful when you land." "I don't care about getting wet, but how am I going to get to the top of this wall?" Musashi ignored the question. "We have to assume guards have been stationed at strategic points besides the main gate. Take a good look around before you jump, or you may find a sword pointed at you." "I understand. I'll throw this charcoal over the wall as a decoy. If nothing happens, you can go ahead." He stooped and Jotaro jumped onto his back. "Stand on my shoulders. My sandals are dirty." "Never mind." Jotaro hoisted himself to a standing position. "Can you reach the top?" "No. If you jump, could you make it?" "I don't think so." "All right, stand on my hands." He stretched his arms straight above his head. "I've got it," Jotaro said in a loud whisper. Musashi took the sack of charcoal in one hand and lobbed it as high as he could. It thudded into the rushes. Nothing happened. "There's no water here," Jotaro reported after he jumped down. "Take care of yourself." Musashi kept one eye to the crack until he could no longer hear Jotaro's footsteps, then walked quickly and light-heartedly to the busiest of the main alleys. None of the many revelers milling about paid any attention to him. When he went out the main gate, the Yoshioka men uttered a collective gasp, and all eyes focused on him. Besides the guards at the gate, there were samurai squatting around the bonfires where the palanquin bearers passed the time while they waited, and relief guards in the Amigasa tea house and the drinking shop across the street. Their vigilance had never relaxed. Basket hats had been unceremoniously lifted and faces examined. Palanquins had been stopped and their occupants examined. Several times, negotiations had been started with the Ogier to search the premises, but these had come to naught. As far as the management was concerned, Musashi was not there. The Yoshiokas could not act on the rumor that Yoshino Dayu was protecting Musashi. She was too highly admired, both within the district and in the city itself, to be assailed without serious repercussions. Obliged to fight a waiting war, the Yoshiokas had encircled the quarter at a distance. They didn't rule out the possibility that Musashi might try to escape over the wall, but most expected him to leave by the gate, either in disguise or in a closed palanquin. The one contingency they were unprepared for was the one they were faced with right now. No one made a move to block Musashi's path, nor did he pause to acknowledge them. He covered 100 paces with bold strides before a samurai shouted, "Stop him!" After him, 8 or 9 shouting men filled the street behind Musashi and began stalking him. "Musashi, wait!" called an angry voice. "What is it?" he replied immediately, startling all with the force of his voice. He moved to the side of the road and backed up against the wall of a shanty. The shanty was part of a sawmill, and a couple of the mill hands slept there. One of them opened the door a crack, but after a quick glance slammed the door and bolted it. Yelping and howling like a pack of stray dogs, the Yoshioka men gradually formed a black crescent around Musashi. He stared intently at them, gauging their strength, assessing their position, anticipating where a move might come from. The 30 men were quickly losing the use of their 30 minds. It was not difficult for Musashi to read the workings of this communal brain. As he had anticipated, not one came forward alone to challenge him. They babbled and hurled insults, most of which sounded like the barely articulate name-calling of common tramps. Bastard, coward, amateur. They themselves were far from realizing that their bravado was merely vocal and revealed their weakness. Until the horde achieved a degree of cohesion, Musashi had the upper hand. He examined their faces, signaled out the ones who might be dangerous, singled out the ones who might be dangerous, picked out the weak spots in the formation, and prepared himself for battle. He took his time and after slowly scrutinizing their faces declared, "I am Musashi, who called me to wait." "We did, all of us. I take it that you are from the Yoshioka school. That's right. What business do you have with me? You know, are you prepared?" "Prepared?" Musashi's lips twisted into a sardonic grin. The laugh that issued from his white teeth chilled their excitement. "A real warrior is prepared even in his sleep. Come forward when you wish. When you are picking a meaningless fight, what sense is there in trying to talk like a human being or in observing the etiquette of the sword? But tell me one thing, is your objective only to see me dead, or do you want to fight like men?" "No answer." "Are you here to settle a grudge or challenge me to a return bout?" Had Musashi, by the slightest forced movement of eye or body, given them an opening, their swords would have rushed at him like air into a vacuum. But he maintained perfect poise. No one moved, and the entire group stood as still and silent as prayer beads. Out of the confused silence came a loud shout. "You should know the answer without asking." Musashi shooting a glance at the speaker. Maiki Jorozaemon judged from the man's appearance that he was a samurai worthy to uphold Yoshioka Kampo's reputation. He alone seemed willing to end the stalemate by striking the first blow. His feet edged forward in a sliding motion. "You maim our teacher Seijiro and kill his brother Denshichiro. How can we hold up our heads if we let you live? Hundreds of us who are loyal to our master have vowed to remove the source of his humiliation and restore the name of the Yoshioka school. It's not a matter of grudges or lawless violence, but we will vindicate our master and console the spirit of his slain brother. I don't envy you your position, but we are going to take your head. On guard. Your challenge is worthy of a samurai," replied Musashi. "If this is your true purpose, I may lose my life to you. But you talk of discharging your duty. You speak of revenge according to the way of the samurai. Why then do you not challenge me properly, as Seijiro and Denshichiro did? Why do you attack en masse? You are the one who's been hiding. Nonsense. You are merely proving that a coward attributes cowardice to others. Am I not standing here before you? Because you were afraid of being caught when you tried to escape. Not so, I could have escaped any number of ways. And did you think that Yoshioka school would have let you? I assumed that you would greet me one way or another, but wouldn't it disgrace us not only as individuals but as members of our class to brawl here? Should we disturb the people here like a pack of wild beasts or worthless tramps? You speak of your obligation to your master, but wouldn't a fight here heap still greater shame on the Yoshioka name? If that's what you've decided on, then that's what you shall have. If you've resolved to destroy your teacher's work, disband your school and abandon the way of the samurai, I have nothing more to say save this. Musashi will fight so long as his limbs hold together. Kill him, cried the man next to Jirozaemon, whipping out his sword. A distant voice cried, Watch out, it's Itakura. As magistrate of Kyoto, Itakura Katsushige was a powerful man, and though he governed well, he did so with an iron fist. Even children sang songs about him. Whose chestnut roan is that, clumping down the street? Itakura Katsushige's ran everybody, ran everyone, ran, or Itakura, Lord of Iga, has more hands than the 1,000-armed cannon, more eyes than the 3-eyed Tenmogu. His constables are everywhere. Kyoto was not an easy city to rule, while Edo was well on the way to replacing it as the country's greatest city. The ancient capital was still a center for economic, political, and military life, and as the place where culture and education were most articulate. The townspeople had, from about the 14th century, given up all military ambition and taken to trades and crafts. They were now recognized as a class apart, and on the whole a conservative one. Also, among the populace were many samurai who sat on the fence, waiting to see whether the Tokugawas would be upset by the Toyotomins, as well as a number of upstart military leaders who, while lacking both background and lineage, managed to maintain personal armies of considerable size. There was also a considerable number of ronin like those in Nara. Libertines and hedonists were plentiful in all classes, so that the number of drinking shops and brothels was disproportionate to the city's size. Considerations of expediency rather than political convictions tended to govern the allegiance of a substantial portion of the people. They swarm with a current and grasp any opportunity seemingly favorable to themselves. A story circulated in the city at the time of Itakura's appointment in 1601 said that before accepting, he asked Ieyasu if he might first consult his wife. When he returned home, he said to her, Since ancient times there have been innumerable men in positions of honor who have performed outstanding deeds but have ended up bringing disgrace upon themselves and their families. Most often, the source of their failure is to be found in their wives or family connections. Thus, I consider it most important to discuss this appointment with you. If you will swear that you won't interfere with my activities as magistrate, I will accept the post. His wife readily consented, avowing that wives have no business interfering in matters of this sort. Then the next morning, as Itakura was about to leave for Edo Castle, she noticed that the collar of his underrobe was askew. She had barely touched it when he admonished her. You've forgotten your oath already. She was made to swear again that she would not meddle. It was generally agreed that Itakura was an effective deputy, strict but fair, and that Ieyasu had been wise to choose him. At the mention of his name, the samurai shifted their eyes away from Musashi. Itakura's men patrolled the quarter regularly, and everyone gave them a wide berth. A young man pushed his way into the open space in front of Musashi. Wait, he cried in the booming voice that had given the alarm. Smirking, Sasaki Kojiro said, I was just getting out of my palaki when I heard a fight was about to break out. I've been afraid for some time this might happen. I'm appalled to see it take place here and now. I'm not a partisan of the Yoshioka school, still less am I a supporter of Musashi. Nevertheless, as a warrior and visiting swordsman, I believe I am qualified to make an appeal in the name of the warrior's code and the warrior class as a whole. He spoke forcefully and eloquently, but in a patronizing tone and with uncompromising arrogance. I want to ask you what you are going to do when the police get here. Wouldn't you be ashamed to be picked up in a common street brawl? If you force the authorities to take notice, it won't be treated like an ordinary fight among townspeople, but that is another question. Your timing is bad, so is the place. It's a disgrace to the entire military class for samurai to disturb the public order. As one of your number, I enjoin you to cease this unseemly behavior immediately. If you must cross swords to settle your grievance, then in the name of heaven, abide by the rules of swordsmanship. Choose a time and place. Fair enough, said Jurozeman. But if we set a time and place, can you guarantee Musashi will appear? I'll be willing to, but can you guarantee it? What can I say? Musashi speak for himself. Perhaps you have in mind helping him to escape. Don't be an ass. If I were to show partiality to him, the rest of you would challenge me. He's no friend of mine. There's no reason for me to protect him. And if he leaves Kyoto, you only have to put up notices all over town to expose his cowardice. That's not enough. We aren't leaving here tonight unless you guarantee to take custody of him until the bout. Kojiro spun around. He thrust out his chest and walked closer to Musashi, who had been staring fixedly at his back, their eyes locked like those of two wild beasts watching each other. There was an inevitability in the way their youthful ego, were pitted against against the other, a recognition of the other man's ability, and perhaps a mote of fear. Do you consent, Musashi, to meet as I have proposed? I accept. Good. However, I take exception to your involvement. You are not willing to put yourself in my custody. I resent the implication. In my bouts with Seijiro and Stanshichiro, I have done absolutely nothing cowardly. Why should their followers think I would flee in the face of a challenge from them? Well spoken, Musashi. I won't forget that. Now, my guarantee aside, will you name the time and place? I agree to any time and place they choose. That too is a gallant answer. Where will you be between now and the time of the fight? I don't have an address. If your opponents don't know where you are, how can they send a written challenge? Decide the time and place now. I'll be there. Kojiro nodded. After consulting with Jurozeman and a few of the others, he came back to Musashi and said, they want the time to be 5 o'clock in the morning the day after tomorrow. I accept. The place is to be the spreading pine at the foot of Ichijoji Hill on the road to Mount Hiei. The nominal representative of the house of Yoshioka will be Genjiro, the eldest son of Yoshioka Genzaemon, the uncle of Seijiro and Danshichiro. Genjiro being the new head of the house of Yoshioka, the bout will be conducted in his name. But he is still a child, so it is stipulated that a number of the Yoshioka disciples will accompany him as his seconds. I tell you this to preclude any misunderstanding. After promises had been formally exchanged, Kojiro knocked on the door of the shanty. The door was gingerly opened and the male hands peeped out. "There must be some wood you don't need around here," Kojiro said gruffly. "I want to put up a sign. Find me a suitable board and nail it to a post about 6 feet long." While the board was being planned, Kojiro sent a man for brush and ink. "Materials assembled," he wrote the time, place, and other details in an expert hand. As before, the notice was being made public, for this was a better guarantee